ISA 501, audit evidence for specific considerations, selected items. I'm only going to touch on the inventory, guys, and on the litigations and claims. It also deals with segment reporting. Okay, so if you're required to do that in terms of your groups. So what do we know about inventory? What is the most significant risk of material misstatements with inventory? They would initially want to overstate inventory to make them look like they've got a stronger asset base. And if they're overstating inventory by including inventory that doesn't actually exist, the applicable assertion would be the existence assertion. So, what can an auditor do to obtain evidence about whether there is a material misstatement about the existence of inventory? I could select a sample of inventory from the inventory list and physically inspect it. The item to see that it does exist. So what am I getting at? I'm saying we need to do test counts by attending the stock count. Okay, so nice and simple for inventory. For litigations and claims, now obviously we're looking at a liability element. So what is the risk with regards to litigations and claims? That they understate. And therefore, they might not record the litigation and the claim where they potentially should have, and so the assertion is completeness. And so what can the auditor do to obtain evidence about whether there is missing litigations and claims? They haven't recorded provisions or contingent liabilities. How could we find out where there are other litigations and claims? By asking the attorneys. So an external confirmation from the attorneys. Nice and easy. Okay, so let's go have a look at ISA 501. So here's the standard, and here we can see for under requirements, they've split it nicely. We've got to look at inventory, we've got to look at litigations and claims, and segments information. Okay, so here it says you need to get evidence about the existence and condition of inventory and the completeness of litigations and claims. For segments information, it's the presentation and disclosure. So requirements for inventory, concerned about the existence and the condition. So we need to attend the physical inventory count. And when we do that, evaluate management's instructions and procedures, observe the performance of the count, inspect the inventory itself, and perform test counts. So guys, remember, you must not add these two procedures when you are doing inventory. Okay? I must remember to actually do my test counts for existence and for completeness. And then I must remember, I must look at the condition. And this is going to help me for determining whether there is a concern with the value of inventory. So let's quickly have a look at these paragraphs. A3 says the matters that we need to consider when we actually go to it are the risks, the nature of the controls, the physical timing, whether they have perpetual inventory, all the different locations at which they hold inventory, and whether we do need an expert. And this would potentially be if there is manufacturing. Because determining the value of that manufacturing inventory could be a little bit more tricky. So that would be both your finished goods and your work in progress values. Okay, then evaluating the instructions, we need to see whether they have control activities, whether they do recount if there are issues, how they go about identifying slow moving or obsolete or damaged, where they estimate physical quantities if it's something in a pile, and how they control movements. So items that are coming in and out on the date of that count. Okay, and then if you are only asked to audit substantively inventory, then these are the only things you would actually do. Physically inspect inventory for any obsolete, damaged, or old inventory that needs to be written down, and then by performing my test counts. Okay, so where we select items from the counting records, trace it to the physical inventory, and then from the physical inventory and trace it to the accounting records. That's all I want to discuss for inventory, so now let's go to litigations and claims. So our biggest concern here is that they are not recording them. And so what do we have to do? Inquire with management and in-house legal, reviewing minutes of meetings of external legal counsel, and another way is to look at the legal expense account, because if we've got huge expenses on legal, then potentially there is a litigation and claim that we are addressing with the legal counsel currently. Okay, so what is the procedures? We have to seek direct communication with the entity's external legal counsel. Okay, how do we go about doing this? We get a letter prepared by management that details the litigations and claims that we send then to external legal counsel to prove or to let us know if there's additional legal litigations and claims that should be included. So that's what I've got over here, 821 to 25. So here's this letter, which must include list of litigations with management's assessment of each and a request for legal counsel to provide us with whether this list is complete and correct. If management refuses to allow us to communicate with them and we can't get the evidence we need, we're going to have to modify our opinion. Okay, because we have got obviously a scope limitation. I'm going to leave it at that now, and we can get on to analytical procedures.